Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Tick, tock, stick, tock. A clock on the wall ticked insistently, as it's expected. Tangy sat in her chair reading. What was she reading? One tale may guess, but she was enjoying herself. That is, until she was interrupted by mediocre knocks at the door. Startled, Tangy quickly straightened up with an anxious look on her face. She does not like invasion of privacy. The mantle slug resting on the arch of her chair and quickly spun its right eye stalk in the direction of the door. It was a slug by the name of Duck, whom Tangy had befriended. Well, technically, rather he befriended her. Upon opening the door, Tangy was greeted by a little cyclops girl. It was Isla Lasherton, who was no more than 7. Wait, or was it 8? Hi, Tangy, she exclaimed eagerly. I know you don't like your privacy invaded, but I just couldn't contain my excitement to show you what I found at the library. Raising the book with one hand and pointing at it with the other, she then explained, a comprehensive book about slugs. Oh my, replied Tangy elatedly, and I never even thought to look. That current slug on the page is Arian rufus, the great bent slug, in the family of Arianidae, the round-backed slugs. Ooh, replied Isla astonished. Neat. Well, I'm glad I could make your day, pal. You did, buddy, confirmed Tangy. I don't know what to say, or how to repay you for that matter. Although there's no need to repay me, replied Isla. Your happiness is enough for me. Okay, buddy. Oh, but I should certainly say thank you, advised Tangy. Right, of course, concurred Isla. Excuse me, called a soft voice from behind. Hope no one here is afraid of snakes. Both Isla and Tangy glanced in the direction of the voice. There they saw an elegant little lamia wearing sunglasses. She seemed no older than Isla, but seemed rather standoffish. Tangy and Isla glanced at each other for a moment, then back to the little lamia. No older, replied in unison. That's a relief. My name is Esther, she replied. Esther A. Periwinkle. The A stands for Adara. One shouldn't reveal personal information such as the middle name, addressed Tangy. But it's nice to meet you, Esther. I'm Tangela Ring, or just Tangy for short. And this is my friend Isla Lasherton. Technically we're sisters, your adoption. I see. Thank you, replied Esther. Well, she'll run away from me. They think I'm frightened. That's absurd, remarked Tangy. Just because you have similar features to a snake doesn't make you one and the same. Just like a monkey compared to a human. You don't even crawl on your belly. Worry dirt, added Esther. Use your marks to not settle with Isla's understanding, but she knew that some personalities were more abstract compared to her. Exactly, concurred Tangy. Though I am curious, you do seem a bit young for lipstick. Well, people don't actually run away from you because I'm the snake. Explain, Esther. At least not all the time. I haven't shown you my entire face. Oh, remarked Tangy intrigued. You're afraid of my... That's why I wear these sunglasses. It's also why I wear lipstick. I see, said Tangy. You need not worry. I don't care what you look like. Right, Isla? Right, Isla, replied. As for me, Tangy for the remark, there's not much difficulty I find in ridding myself to feel content with departing from my reality. So I'm not afraid of turning the stone, nor a pillar of soul. Oh, I wouldn't worry about that, Esther replied. One of them's a myth, anyhow. True. Okay, then. Though the process may be awful at times, there were some personal goals I had in mind to complete. Esther hesitantly lifted the sunglasses from her eyes, slowly, little by little, until they had been completely removed. Tangy just stood for a moment with a blank expression. As she gazed at Esther's face, sweat visibly dripping from her forehead from extreme anxiety. A smile began to spread across Tangy's face. I can see why your mother named you Esther. Because your face is beautiful. Indeed it is, concurred Isla. Inside, Esther was crying tears of joy. Or rather, happiness. But she didn't let them show, for she did not want to embarrass herself in front of strangers. You don't need lipstick, continued Tangy, but I do think the bow was quite charming. Yes, chimed in Isla. That's why I like my motion, slam pointing to the goal on her thin. Oh, thank you, exclaimed Esther. Thank you both so very much. You're welcome, the reply. It's our utmost pleasure. For a moment, Tangi's gaze turned away. This was another instance in which she realized that there's always something to be thankful for. She always dealt with self-doubt and insecurities. Whether those insecurities be about her self-image, personality, or feeling lost regarding certain matters of ones, or needing to express her opinion of them to someone she can trust. All of this oftentimes plagued her, but at least she didn't have esotropia, also known as conversion strabismus. Esther, I'm truly deeply sorry for the scrutiny you've experienced because of your condition. There's a lot I have taken for granted, said Tangi pensively. I once met someone who could not walk. Until I had met them, I took for granted my ability to walk. Just as I had taken for granted my ability to breathe underwater. And now, I realize I have taken my appearance for granted, as well as my physical health. I have no condition I'm aware of. At least no physical condition. What a source of inspiration you are to keep fighting, Esther. Thank you, replied Esther. It's been rough, but my heart's still beating. Do you mean to imply you have a non-physical type of condition? Yes, in a way, it's actually both a blessing and a curse. Sometimes it's very beneficial and insightful. Other times it's very degrading, demeaning, and downright torturous. Either way, it never stops. At least 95% of the time it doesn't. And it constantly leads me to getting distracted, often you struggle to get anything done, and sometimes stub my tentacle by tangerine. Oh, wow, stated Esther astonished. That does sound pretty unpleasant. Yes, admitted Tangi. Now you know why it isn't particularly difficult for me to prepare my state of mind for impending departure. I see, remarked Esther understandingly. Yep, it's called introverted intuition, or NI for short. And that is how it will be until the day I draw my last breath, which in my case would be the day the writer finishes my story. When or if that happens depends on the will of the one who wrote the writer. He knew every writer and every story had ever been set into motion since the beginning of time, though. Indeed, said Esther understandingly. Isla was visibly confused. Tangi, could you explain that to me later? And she asked. Of course, replied Tangi with a smile before turning back to Esther. Well, now we're left to wonder which condition would be better off to live with. The three glanced at the ground simultaneously as they began pondering. Is it better to be Rudolph or is it better to be Ferdinand? Condition which is visible or a condition which is not visible? Either one may be met with scrutiny. However, I feel there are different pros and cons, said Tangi, thinking of it out loud. The physical condition is much harder to hide, but at least it's very clear what the issue is. Thus, you may be much more likely to find acceptance. With a mental condition, there's nothing visible to be ashamed of. But the issue you have can prove difficult to make clear, with few people being able to relate any form of understanding. And thus, you may be much less likely to find acceptance. But hey, that's just my 2 cents, whatever that terminology means. Yeah, Isla said, taking in all of Tangi's logical reasoning. Esther audibly, you make some very intriguing analyzations. Thank you, my friend. You're welcome. Would you like to know how my eye came to be like this? A lot of intrigue formed in Tangi's eyes. I had just assumed I'd been born that way. I am intrigued. Okay, it had to do with an accident. An accident my mother had before I was even born. It was predicted that I wasn't even supposed to survive by birth. And neither was my mother, for that matter. But she didn't even plan on having me in the first place. She didn't want me, because that was a constant reminder of the traumatic circumstances under which I was conceived. Yes, she knew that I mattered. She knew I was a living being. But the negative emotion was just too great for her to bear. So, the doctors carefully removed my egg from my mom's womb before it to cause any damage. They didn't want me to develop too far, as they would feel guilty eliminating me if I did. So they immediately began trying to crush my egg with the hammers. Unfortunately for them, the egg I was encased was particularly rock hard. It probably caused my mother a little discomfort. But lo and behold, midway through their hammering, they hatch. Call it a miracle, call it divine intervention, but whatever the case, my frail, fragile little body pushed its way out of that cement smear fitting. Somehow or another, it just didn't. My mother felt compassion, then upon her request, the nurses resuscitated me and suspended me in a vat of artificial amniotic fluid to complete my development. And 9 months later, I fully developed into a healthy lamia infant. What is new? Save a little squim. My word, the Nastaz Tandy replied that I lost words. I know, emphasized extra at time. My mother felt so horribly filthy for what she tried to indicate. The effect it had on my left eye. So I told her it wouldn't have harmed. I understood why she tried to do what she did. Regardless, my mom told me that going back, she would have found another way to preserve both herself and me. She insists that, if there's a will, there's a way. I for one believe she is right. Me too, inferred Isla. Well, I'm very glad you're alive, said Tanju, trying to find the right words. And I'm glad your mother is glad as well. And I'm glad you're both alive. Replied Esther, nodding with a smile. Thank you. And thank you for thinking I'm a fit. You're welcome, responded Tanju with slight enthusiasm. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. They're on silent. Tanju glanced back to see a huge spurt in Isla's face. Little Tanju before correcting herself. Beauty is in the eyes or eye of the beholder. Sorry, Isla. "'Tis all good," she replied laughingly. An audible chuckle came from Esther as well. Turning back to Esther, Tanji stated, "Esther, I can easily see the purpose you were made for. Lord willing, you will be a great mediator. You will surely touch and change the hearts of many people." "I think so." "Indeed, I do think so." "I think so too," agreed Isla. "Why don't you come inside, Esther? Are you hungry? I was thinking about baking some cookies." All right," agreed Esther at the thought of spending time with new friends. "Don't mind the gastropods having their brunch. They're my friends. Laugh and like to pay me a visit," explained Tanky. "Oh, I see. You like gastropod?" asked Esther. "Yes, that's not surprising considering I'm a fellow mollusc, but I like them not only because I can relate to them or for their appearance, but because they can detect light rather easily. That's a good point yet how to always see the light." "That is very true," replied Asher. "Absolutely, the third canyon." "Okay, your cookies are ready," announced Silent. "But it's only been roughly 2.5 minutes," stated Esther Holman. They closed their eye and smiled. "I know." Tanji, smiling too, turned to Esther. She's a bit of a virtuoso. Esther took in the sweet, savory scent of the peanut butter cookie with her fork-like purple tongue. They smell delicious. "Thank you," replied Isla with a muffled, appreciative voice. Her left cheek was bulging, with noticeable cookie crumbs around her mouth. "They taste delicious, too." And